What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here. Thank you so much for joining me, and today we've got some brand spankin' new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live detailing official information. And so, let's get started. Now, I just got back from a big kayak trip, hitting up those yaks, so to speak, out here in Vancouver. Sure, some of you guys know about it, for a friend's wedding, having a great vacation. So the vacation mood is strong, but I still wanted to find the time to bring you guys this information because there's some really interesting stuff detailed. First and foremost, right now, Iron Banner is ongoing, and this is the last one of the current season of the Drifter. Bungie does mention that when Iron Banner returns in the season of Opulence, it's going to have some changes. Now, we do know that the Iron Burden mechanic is going away, but what else may be entailed? Not exactly sure. In any event, moving on from there, the real big information is some huge sandbox changes. Let's go over them. And somewhat unfortunately, these changes are just a big list of nerfs to exotic weapons for next season of Opulence. The dev team says that these exotic weapons are just seeing such high play, especially in PvE, and they want to keep those high-end PvP challenges like the raids actually challenging some of these weapons they claim are just too much. Firstly, the Whisper of the Worm. Already the recipient of a big recent nerf, it's getting another one. Bungie is changing how this weapon utilizes ammo. They say we're removing the ammo generation ability so that we can increase the effectiveness of all other snipers that don't have an endless ammo supply. They say that firstly, White Nail pulls ammo from reserves rather than creating it, and secondly, reserve ammunition increased to 18 without any reserve perks. So, I mean, you will be able to get a considerable amount of DPS never having to reload, but it really depends on how much ammo you have at the very beginning of that encounter. That's a big nerf. Next on the list, we have the Sleeper Simulant. The reduction of bounced shot damage for Sleeper Simulant is already present on several important enemies. We are now making this reduction part of the weapon. The difference in damage is too large between a single precision shot of Sleeper Simulant and an angled shot that pierces the target, then also hits the target again with bounced projectiles. Much like the Whisper, we've had to adjust enemies around that potential. By making these changes a permanent part of the weapon, we can get it to a more balanced position. So two things. Number one, reduced ricochet/bounce damage on boss combatants. Number two, modified precision behavior. Total damage is unchanged, but non-precision shots are significantly more forgiving. Moving on from there, next on the hit list is the Lord of Wolves. Bungie says it received a massive increase in damage with the full benefits of the shotgun changes in Season of the Drifter. This made it a lot more popular, but we got a significant amount of feedback that Release the Wolves activating on every kill made it difficult to control the weapon's ammo consumption. As a result, we're allowing you to swap between the two states to control the output, while also reducing its output slightly. So, PvE damage reduced by 20%. And Release the Wolves perk has been reworked. Now, no longer triggers automatically on kill. This effect is now triggered by holding reload, similar to the fundamentals on Hardlight and Borealis. So, hold reload, you're going to reload your weapon, and then it's going to become in that new state, that more powerful state. Also, PvE damage and range bonuses on this effect has been removed and replaced with a universal damage bonus instead. Now, this is interesting, absolutely nerfed from the 20% reduction in damage, but giving players more control about how they utilize this Release the Wolves perk could be a beneficial thing, so we're going to have to see how this one plays out. Next up, we have the Ace of Spades. Bungie says Ace of Spades is pretty hot in the Crucible and has been since its inclusion in Destiny 2 Forsaken. The number of perks on the weapon combined with the semi-permanent effect of Memento Mori gives the weapon too many advantages compared to other weapons. Now that Memento Mori ends when you stow the weapon, you'll need to make a decision on whether or not you'll keep the weapon drawn to retain the bonus. So Memento Mori now ends if the weapon is stowed. the PvP damage bonus of that perk was slightly reduced to prevent 2-tapping Guardians while Vengeance, One-Eyed Mask, was active. Specifically, you need 4 Resilience to survive this, and that perk is active for 6 shots, again up from 5. Now, here's my only concern with that. Bungie is absolutely right, this thing is terrorizing the Crucible, but in the PC version of Destiny 2, on console, the Ace of Spades is not highly used basically at all, and this is a small example of a much bigger problem. Bungie is treating the PC and console versions of Destiny 2 the same, even though they play 10 seconds of each, and you can see that they're very different games, very different experiences. Another great example of this is the recent nerf to the Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten coming in the next season. Those are not used that much on the PC versions, and yet they're also being nerfed on that platform. This is something that Bungie can't just continue to ignore. Different platforms are going to have to be balanced differently. Now moving on from there, we are done with the exotic weapon nerfs, and now we have some exotic armor nerfs. Now Bungie does say that there are some certain exotic armor pieces, especially ones that help you get your super back, that are just completely overwhelming the meta right now, and if you're not using them, you're at a substantial disadvantage. Now they say, for super generating exotic armor changes, the Skull of Dire Ahamkara for the Warlock, the Orpheus Rigs for the Hunter, and the Phoenix Protocol for the Warlock now receive super energy back with diminishing returns, making it rarer to get a full super back. Also, the Shards of Galanor and Ursa Furiosas had their super gain caps reduced to be in parity with the other super exotic changes. The Guizen Vest had its energy reduced from 15 to 8% for killing 1 or 2 Guardians, and they say it still scales up to before when killing 3 or more Guardians, and PvE energy return remains similar to before. Bungie says, we're sympathetic about the fact that the changes we make in the interest of balancing combat and game design can be jarring. It was important that we have this conversation before you read the patch notes. We know many of you will have a lot riding on day 1 of Season of Opulence, hence the raid launching day 1. Hopefully this intel will assist you in building the perfect monster killing machines for the next season of play. So, let's talk about those changes. Very interesting and very drastic, and Bungie is right. A little jarring. Now, in fairness to Bungie, in the one hand, they are very right. That list of exotics we went over is the PvE meta. Those weapons and those armor pieces get used so much more than everything else. Now you may say, well, if that's the case, why not buff everything else? And Bungie makes the argument we can't just keep increasing everything or the power potential is going to get ridiculous. And they're right, but you have to look at each individual scenario. In my opinion, I don't mind nerfs to these things, but there are just so many exotics that are completely useless. Like the Peacekeeper's exotic legs for the Titan, I believe. You have all these exotics that see like absolutely zero play. Buff those. Buff those as well. Make these nerfs, that's fine, but also try to breathe some light into some exotics that are going to see no play whether or not these are nerfed. Also, my one other concern is, apart from the PC/console thing we've talked about, is that so many encounters within this game, I'm thinking Tier 3 of the Reckoning, almost require you to have stuff like the Skull of Dire Ahamkara. Those encounters are basically designed around you chaining supers over and over and over again. So, if Bungie is nerfing these exotics that are nigh required for those activities, are those activities remaining the same? Or are they going to be dialed back from our dialed back power potential? That's something else that I don't think Bungie can just ignore. That activities that a lot of people have done and completed are going to be a lot harder for anyone who maybe hasn't bought the annual pass yet, or anyone going into those activities next season. They're just going to have a harder time and be punished for no reason other than just joining Destiny 2 at a different time. So that's something they need to look at as well. But I do, like Bungie says, I do very much appreciate them coming out and telling us this now, because yeah, that's going to absolutely affect whatever your raid day one build is going to be. And for me, you know, if I was running a Warlock, I'd probably be running the Skull of Dire Ahamkara. I still might, it's so powerful, but I gotta look for alternatives now. In any event, guys, that's pretty much it for the news. Pretty much the only other thing is that you can buy a shirt repping Trevor, the absolute nightmare located inside the 0-hour mission. And again, guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.